Welcome to Khanversations. I'm your host, Muqtedar Khan, and as you can see, we have a wonderful guest with us, Senator Elizabeth Lockman, who represents the 3rd District of the state of Delaware, the first state. Remember that? We became first as soon as America was born. And so she's here to talk about Kamala Harris, and we will also talk a little bit about her campaign because she's also up for elections without any competitors. So probably there is no elections, but she's as good as re-elected. So Senator, what's your reaction to Kamala Harris becoming the presidential nominee for the Democrats?
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Dr. Khan. It's wonderful. Always wonderful to be here. So my reaction to Kamala Harris becoming our candidate, I mean, it's been a very exciting few weeks. It's only been a few weeks. It's just been, it's been a rush, I think, and a surprise in some ways. Obviously, I think first we had to process President Biden making the decision that he made, which was shocking and revelation and all of these different things. And so I had a lot of strong feelings about that. We're Delawareans, after all. I'm a Delawarean, and he's our guy. So there was a little bit of grief, I think, that came with that, but also a lot of gratitude to President Biden for just recognizing the context in which we are in and the challenge that this election is bringing. And so
Maybe a little bit of relief also.
I was shocked how relieved I felt. Because I was really, it was like, I don't know how you felt, but I felt like I was just holding on, like I was going up the hill on a roller coaster and not sure what was going to be on the downward slope. But we are very, very true to Joe here. I think I certainly feel that way and willing to support this person who's sort of given so much of his life's essence to the state and the country. But obviously very concerned and very worried. So when not only did he make that announcement, but the immediate, support that he lent to Vice President Harris, it just felt so right. And I think, as a Black woman in politics, you do feel an affinity, I think, oftentimes with other women and other people of color, and certainly other Black women in politics. And though she is vice president of this nation, I think in a lot of ways in the last few years, she's been a bit in the wings. So I think I felt a little bit of holding my breath to see how she would be received. And of course, she just stepped right up as I think no one now feels a lot of surprise in the way that she did. And seeing everyone coalesce around her. So I think my feelings about her as our candidate are, to some extent about her and excitement for her as a person, as a politician, as a professional, all the things that she is. And but also a lot of just gratitude and excitement seeing her, I think, get her fair due and her opportunity to lead in a way that I think she knew she was prepared for. Obviously, she was a candidate in 2020 as well, and just seeing the way that we've all been able to unify behind her has been very touching and very exhilarating. And it's really phenomenal to feel the momentum building, and that we really might be on the verge of electing. Hold on, let me step back. I'm not going to say might. We are on the verge of electing the first female president of the United States of America, and she's a woman of color. And so it's just, I used the word already, but I'll just say it's exhilarating. And I feel like a lot of people seem to be feeling that feeling. I don't know. What about you?
Oh, I'm absolutely thrilled. So I've come here to arm wrestle you. Is she an American? Is she an Indian American, or is she a Black American? Donald Trump says she suddenly became Black overnight, and so some people have been sharing announcements when she got elected as the first senator, as a senator from California. So they were saying, "Oh, an Indian American." So what do you think of this controversy that Donald Trump is trying to raise, saying that she's, all this talk about her being a DEI candidate and etc. How important is it for us to have a woman president?
Um, I think it's important, but it's also just logical because, you know, there are as many people who live in this country who are women as are not. And so, just logically, by doing the math, I think it makes all the sense in the world for us to be represented by a woman and to be represented by a person of color and be represented by someone who fits into both of those categories. And so, I absolutely don't think there's anything in the vein of affirmative action about that. And the commentary, that she's a DEI candidate is just a blatant dog whistle comment meant to inflame people in his base who are going to be inflamed by that. So it's just that's offensive and can put that aside. And in terms of having any debate around her identity, I think we can all claim her. I think women can claim her. I think Indian Americans and the global diaspora can claim her there. I think as a Black American, I absolutely feel no hesitation in claiming her and the way she represents all of those identities. And I think people who are not people of color and not women also seem pretty excited about her and all that she represents. And so I think, his way of trying to frame that is just it's willful ignorance, but it is ignorance. And and I think probably he should know as well as anyone that certainly in this country, you don't have to be 100% Black to be a Black person. I myself have a mixed heritage, and you grow up and you experience your place in society, and you realize, I'm Black. I can say I'm mixed. I can say I have this, that, and the other identity in my makeup. But I think in America, to have any portion of Blackness is to be a Black American, and an understanding that comes with that's really important. And so I think it's huge, but I also don't think that it melts away other parts of her identity. And so I think that you as an Indian American and others should be absolutely fantastically thrilled and proud because she represents that identity so well also.
I used to predict on my show that the next election would be Nikki Haley versus Kamala Harris. So regardless of who won, the president would be the first U.S. female president would be an Indian American. It's very interesting that people who are critical of her multiple identities don't realize that is what America is, and that is the future of America. We are all from different places, and we come here and then we become mixed, and that's how it is. I mean her whole life she's her father is from Jamaica, her mother is from India, she's married to a Jewish person. What more? How much more diverse can you get than that?
Right.
But does it surprise you that there are two sins that America has committed, or two ailments that it has? One is sexism, the other is racism. So is it surprising that we got a Black president but not a woman president? Obama was elected in 2008.
Great question. If you had asked me to predict whether we would have had, a woman president first, like a white woman versus a Black man be president first,
I think Elizabeth Dole probably came very close, right?
Yes. I don't know if I would have predicted that things went the way that they did, but and I think that was what was so breathtaking about Obama's rise. But he, is a very talented and special individual. So I don't think it's surprising that he was the one who was able to kind of break that barrier, perhaps before a woman did. And so I think that was a very unique situation. But then, of course, we've also seen, the backlash that's brought. And I do think, our struggles as a country with racism, particularly racism as it pertains to Black Americans and people who have come up from slavery is very, in particular, which is a bit different than like an immigrant identity. If we want to be really honest about that, I think that's still something that we have not quite reckoned with, And so Obama, in a way, because he was a descendant of a Black immigrant father, that creates a different dynamic. There's so many nuances to the way that sexism and racism play out in this country, unfortunately. But I think we are very, very lucky that we are in a position to have these conversations. And I think that we've been, we're on a trajectory to start healing, I hope, on the other side of this election.
I mean, it is amazing how sudden this transformation was, isn't it? To just throw some numbers at you, the last 2 weeks that there was all this debate about whether Biden will withdraw from the contest or not. The money has dried. The donors has completely dried. Some of the bundlers were using phrases like "not a penny more." And then suddenly Kamala Harris is announced and the money comes pouring in. She raised over $200 million and $80 million within 24 hours, 200 million within the first 1 week, and I think 300 million already. She also got about 170,000 new volunteers, which was to me much more. And most of the money that she got was in small amounts. And so there were lots and lots of donors coming in. And the most remarkable thing is that happened today is one of the things that the insiders in the Democratic Party that used the data to convince Biden that if he stayed on the ticket, not only would he lose, but he would also undermine the chances of the Democrats defending the Senate and maybe even losing it. So what is this poll called the New York Siena College poll, which came out today? So in the three critical states, which is Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, Biden was trailing behind Trump in all of this. In some places up to 4 or 5 points. So it was not within a statistical tie. But the data today shows this stunning. Kamala Harris is leading Trump by 4 points in each of those. So not only has she got Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, but it's possible she can win Nevada and North Carolina. She's leading in Nevada too.
Yeah.
So this is. I mean, it's stunning how the Democratic Party came together.
It is stunning.
Is it just her or something else?
I think she's tapping into something that was there. I think, you mentioned that sense of relief that we felt when the president made his decision to bow out from the race. And I think, we all felt that lack of energy and that sense of impending doom. And I think, it just felt like we were clinging to this old way and this old guard and literally the same race that had been run in 2020, which I think when we found ourselves there again, everyone was just like, I cannot believe we're here facing the exact same race again, and how demoralizing that was and how draining. So I think, it is her, but I think it's really just like we felt like we were in this doom cycle and we broke it. We broke free. And I think, that energy and the energy of a youthful candidate and, probably on some level sticking it to, the Republicans who thought that they, had it made, all of these things that we were able to coalesce around, were just so energizing. And that's what people sign up to volunteer for. And that's what people open their wallets for. The sense that there is momentum, there's energy, there is a vision of where it is that we want to go and the actual juice to get there. And so I don't think we all realized that we were kind of cowering and waiting for someone to tap that desire and all this. It's the hope factor, just like Obama used to talk about. It feels like a very Obama-like moment, that we're uncovering these feelings that the electorate has. And so that's just been it's phenomenal to watch. I think we're like a freight train now, just full steam ahead.
So we are about 1 week, exactly 1 week from the convention. Are you going for the convention?
So I am going to be in Chicago. I'm not going to the convention itself. I'm going to a peripheral event, but I will be I'll be around. I'm very excited.
So what is interesting is that now the suddenly it appears. I mean, like, I think the honeymoon will last till the end of the convention, but then people will start asking questions. Today, I was listening to a pundit who was making these snide comments about Biden's interview, and it says now Biden has given more interviews than Kamala Harris since she has become the nominee. So, which is actually true because
Oh, is that right?
she
She's
hasn't
out there talking to voters.
she hasn't given a single interview, a sit-down interview, and
Okay.
even though she has agreed to, I mean, she's going to debate, and she said that even if Trump doesn't show up for the ABC debate on September 10th, she will be there to
I
talk
love it.
about her. So, do, do you think that before this, like before she became the nominee, she wasn't doing very well in the polls, and I don't think that the Biden administration really did. I think they marginalized her significantly, and which is a good thing because then she can say she doesn't own Biden's policies,
Mhm.
some of the policies that she can clearly disown. So
Right.
when, fortunately, the time span is just 84 days from now, I think.
Mhm.
So do you think that once the debates start and we actually move into the substantive sides of the debate, and I feel that, I mean, if Trump was asking me, Dr. Khan, what would you like to advise me? I would say tell a lot of jokes in the debate. Let her laugh.
Because she has that cackle.
Yeah, I would be
I don't
telling a
know.
lot of jokes in the debate and make her laugh as much as you can. She might lose some votes. What do you think? Once we get over this, oh my God, thank God Biden is gone. Thank God we have a serious candidate who's young, who's energetic, who can debate. She
Mhm.
spent a whole 12 hours after Biden withdrew making important phone calls to all
Yeah.
stakeholders. So she
Yeah.
has the energy, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But this is going to be a very close competition. 100,000 votes this way or that way will
Right.
swing it.
I mean, as you said, we're in the honeymoon phase, and I think she has this great advantage of kind of that honeymoon phase will take her to election day, just in terms of timing. I heard a really interesting analysis on NPR when someone asked the question, "Why have we struggled in the United States for so long to elect a woman to lead our country when so many other countries have been able to do it?" And they said, it really has to do with the way our electoral system works in other countries where we've seen it happen. There's a parliamentary system. You have this opportunity for a person to be known amongst sort of an inner sanctum of people and select this person as their leader and put them forward, yada yada. And here, we have a long drawn out process of a primary where someone just gets beaten down and beaten down and beaten down. And even so, in some other countries where a woman has finally made that breakthrough, it's oftentimes a man stepping back and handing that baton to that woman at the last minute, or just in midstream, that has allowed that breakthrough to happen because it sort of cuts out the room to beat her down, as apparently is the natural human instinct in political systems. And so I think that we have the good fortune of timing. I know we all sort of panicked that the timing was such that, like, oh, it's too late to build up the momentum for this. And I think we were wrong. I think instead that there'll be this huge advantage of there not being time for them to sort of chip away at her as we traditionally would, as we saw happen to Hillary Clinton over the long, long road of an election. And I think, she's a smart woman. She's tough, but she is also a person with a sense of humor and energy who has, I think, proven to bring maybe a different personality than people expected to the campaign trail as well. That I think is really resonating with people. It is delighting people when she's funny. It's delighting people when she, throws a really stern look out into the crowd to, like, the people who are disrupting, things like that. So I think she just has all of the right components to withstand whatever onslaught. I'm not sure, maybe getting her to just cackle the entire time is the answer. But I'm not sure what they're going to be able to pin her down on, because she seems to be thriving in this moment. She seems to have been really, as you said, she's been perhaps marginalized, but saving her energy. And I think, again, as a Black woman in politics, I absolutely can relate to that, as you are trying to chart your way to get done the important things that need to get done for the people that you represent. Sometimes, many, many times, you feel called upon to quietly stand to the side or toe the line and wait for your opportunity to strike. And I think that she's just, to me, a beautiful example of doing that at like the highest level. She has been a good soldier in her administration, I think, in a lot of ways. And it doesn't mean that she's gotten to, have a lot of shine. But as you said, that means she gets to still craft a whole new narrative and story and introduce herself in a fresh way, and just be who she is, and have continued the things that we like about this administration, which I think has been quite accomplished, but also introduce her new and I think more progressive in some ways ideas. Her very different, just generally generationally speaking, experiences that she's had in American systems, whether it was being a child during the era of busing in public schools, or the time that she spent in in the criminal justice system, and what she might have learned from being on the right or wrong side, so to speak, of policies. Yeah, I think she has so much to tell us that she hasn't told us yet, that I don't think we're going to get tired of her. And and she seems to be loving it, and that just, it's very easy for all of the electorate, I think, to pick up on. So I think her support will only grow.
I also think that her her she's rising to the occasion. There's no doubt about it. She sees a historical opportunity, and she wants to really not lose this. Plus, I think it has demoralized Trump very clearly. The man has lost his marbles, so to speak. It is obvious. If you want to attack Kamala Harris, you attack her on the border and you tie her to Biden's economic policies. That's it. And it would just continue. Just say this is Joe Biden in a skirt and then move on, right?
Right, the Bidenomics.
Yeah, exactly. But he's attacking her on what I think are her strengths, the diversity that she brings, etc. But it reminds me of another strong woman, that is Nancy Pelosi, who's out there. And a lot of people feel that she has been the force behind this transformation. And perhaps, a lot of people think that she has been the greatest speaker of the House. And I'm talking to a very powerful woman too. One of my very close friends is also a state senator, and you know him. And I often joke and introduce him as the next governor of Delaware. But apparently now people are saying that, oh, don't forget Tizzy, don't forget Tizzy.
Oh, wow.
So talking about strong women as leaders, do you have any thoughts on Nancy Pelosi's role in essentially completely transforming the fortunes of the Democratic Party by pushing Biden out and elevating Kamala Harris?
Again, I think she is one of the best examples we have of a woman who knows how to work her ways and exert influence over a system which is not always its kindest to women, and she is, just such a brilliant operator. So I think,
she's older than Biden, by the way.
What's that? She's older. Great point, actually. Yeah. But she's really hung in there, and and to that point, she ceded her leadership, and that was a fabulous example. I think that's what leaders do: is they don't cling to power. They understand when it's time to pass that baton to the next person. So she did that as well, but still behind the scenes. And I think, as known as she is, I think probably her most powerful is probably in moments that we don't see. And so it doesn't surprise me a bit that she was probably at every table where people were grappling with what was the right way to go here, and, making sure that ultimately prioritized the fate of the country and being able to continue to do all of the work that we know we need to do and can do on behalf of Americans. So, I think she's just a super smart person who knows how to read tea leaves and understand what Americans want, and when to call it and step back from a fight. So, I'm sure she gave probably some pretty heartfelt, friendly advice, as opposed to like cracking a whip. I don't know that Joe Biden would have responded to that as much as, the sage advice of a friend who has maybe, like you said, generational peer going through some of the same stuff and saying, you know what, it's time. It's time for us to let this next generation step up and how right we were.
I have one last question to you, Tizzy. Let's wait for Sultan to calm down.
Calm down.
Somebody came and left, I think, a parcel. I think it is.
Always Amazon.
Yeah, at the door, and he's like, "Oh my God, how dare you violate the sovereignty of this house?" Uh, so, so you're running for your third term as senator in the state of Delaware, and do you have any? I mean, you're on so many different committees. I was looking at it. Very diverse set of committees. What do you see like your own role in the third term as senator? What will you be focusing on?
Oh wow. I mean, so I'm probably really going to try to continue to work the roadmap that I was able to develop 5, 6 years ago when I first went out to talk to the people that I represent. And I represent a district where, we have a lot of neighborhoods where people are struggling pretty significantly. And so when I go out and see what's going on, that's what continues to drive me. Is I'm not going to be satisfied until I can look at every neighborhood that I represent and feel that people are, having their needs met and able to thrive on their own terms. So I really do try to make sure that I have a place on committees where I can focus on pretty basic quality of life issues. We want to make sure that we get a hold of the housing crisis, that everyone has a safe, quality place to lay their head at night, and in a community where they feel secure. We want to make sure people are able to send their children to school and feel good about that experience. We want to make sure people can put food on the table and have jobs that they enjoy and allow them again to live a life that's more than basic subsistence survival or less. So really those are the basic things. It's been really cool to go out and see some other new voices. I think in politics, I was at a conference last week where the governor of Maryland was speaking and just talking about his focal point being, just elimination of child poverty. And I think it's when you just think of it in terms of those basic visions, those basic things that I think we can all agree would unlock an enormous amount of potential, not just for those individuals, although morally that is the right thing to do. That's what we want, but for us as a state. And I just think, for me, that's where my heart is. There's so many quality of life issues that we have yet to really master, that I think once we get a firmer footing on those things, it will unlock so much potential for this beautiful state that we live in, that I think goes unsung, because there's still a lot of struggle kind of pulling down, and we're only as strong as the least of us. So yeah, I mean, continuing to work on public education issues is going to be huge for me. Continuing to work on gun safety issues. We finally got permit to purchase done and want to continue on that path. Working on doing more legislation around housing and much more. I mean, there's so much that we can do, and it's not just my platform. Now that I'm have enjoyed being in leadership and look forward to continuing to be in leadership for the state Senate. We have a big team of 15 senators who all have lists like that, and great big ideas, whether it's to do with energy and the environment or, all kinds of things. And so I also get to play more and more like a shepherding role and helping make sure my whole team gets to do things. And I think we've seen the results of that from the Senate. So I'm just loving that. I'm looking forward to 4 more years of that, and just can only imagine where we are going to go. But all the same, we'll be spending the next couple of months just going out and vetting this, going out and knocking on doors and talking to voters and finding out how they're doing, and making sure we're on the right path and what else they want to see us working on in Dover. And yeah, it's been a fun time, and it's going to be a really interesting world, I think, in the General Assembly next year. We'll have some new folks and some new dynamics. So stay tuned.
Thank you very much, Senator Elizabeth Lockman, for coming to Conversations and talking to our guests. And for those of you who have been watching this show, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and please distribute this, especially in the state of Delaware. And I look forward to watching you achieve your goals, Senator, and we will keep.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you very much.
All right. Bye.